Okay, hello. Well, if you'd seen my previous video about the Roland SH101, you might remember that I said it wasn't really a great success and then turned into something very different. Well, here's another Roland creation that really didn't meet anyone's approval when it kind of came out. It is the Roland TB303 Bassline. So what happened when it came out? Basically, it's a tiny silver box. Only 10,000 were made. It was made, I think, in 1981, and it was designed for guitarists. And the idea was that if you were a guitarist and you're kind of on your own and you didn't really have a bass player to practice with or play alongside, then this little thing was designed so that a guitarist could kind of type in a little bass line and they could kind of play together, if you like, or play along with it. The problem was it was not met with a great deal of affection by guitar players. It sounded absolutely awful as a bass guitar, and consequently, only, like I say, only 10,000 were made. Mainly because it didn't really get a foothold. No one would dare play along with it. No self-respecting guitarist. It didn't sound like a guitar, and to be honest, it just ended up in many kind of second-hand stores and whatnot. Let's just delve into a bit about how and when it came about. So back in '81, at the time, Roland was already kind of gaining recognition with its kind of innovative drum machines like the TR-808, the TR-606. And they were looking to kind of expand their market and build other things alongside it, hence the TB303 Bassline. TB stands for transistor bass. So transistor bassline is how the name came about. The idea was really simple: create a machine that could serve as a substitute for a bass guitarist, especially for solo performers. You could program it, press play and jam over it. It had basic controls, so things like tuning, cutoff, resonance, envelope, modulation, decay, and accent. And probably a lot of these things were new and completely dumbfounded most guitarists at the time. And it had a built-in sequencer, so you could, like I say, program the notes and make little patterns and sequences. Again, quite new, and so perhaps another thing that just might have not met with the normal kind of guitarist of the time. So sales were pretty disastrous, to be honest. The amount of time and effort and R&D that Roland put into it wasn't met with a lot of sales, and by 1984 Roland had discontinued it, so just 3 years later, like I say, selling less than 10,000 units. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, it kind of hasn't even started yet. So by the mid-1980s, the second-hand market was flooded with these things. Kind of weird, cheap and obscure, and they just ended up in thrift shops all over the place. And they ended up in a few thrift shops in Chicago, where a trio of DJs came along and bought one. The DJs were called DJ Pierre, Spanky and Herb J. They were a band called Future, spelt with a PH. So Future stumbled on one of these in a pawn shop. They took it home and started experimenting, tweaking with the knobs, sliding notes, whatnot, and pushing the machine far beyond or totally outside its intended purpose. In fact, I don't think any of them were guitarists, so they took it in a completely different direction. And they made something quite weird, hypnotic, squelchy, psychedelic. It was a track called, here we go, this is where it all originated from, acid tracks. So if you're wondering where the acid music came from, that's it. The track was released in 1987. It was a 12-minute kind of long play single, and it played at the legendary Music Box by DJ Ron Hardy, kind of a club there, and the crowds went crazy for it. They loved it. They didn't even know what it was, but they absolutely loved it. Totally different form of music, and their acid house was born. So from Chicago, acid house spread. It didn't really spread to America, which is really odd. It spread to, first of all, to the UK, spread to Europe, where it exploded into full-on cultural movement. It spread to places like London and Manchester. These were really the the people who took on the mantle and really exploded something called the acid house movement. And then it moved to kind of Berlin, Ibiza and Amsterdam. And the TB303 became the heartbeat of a kind of new kind of rave music, which everyone knows as acid house. It was the era of all-night warehouse parties, pirate radio stations, baggy clothes, smiley faces, and ecstasy-fueled dance floors. I'm not condoning that, by the way. I'm just saying that's what happened. And some of the great tracks, obviously, I've already mentioned the track by Future, but a great track was called Voodoo Ray, a guy called Gerald, which I personally think is probably one of the best and best known 303 tracks of all time. It still stands up today. It's a fantastic track. Go and listen to it if you can. I'm not going to play it now because obviously I'll probably get demonetized or whatever they call it. So these tracks weren't kind of songs, they were just kind of rituals. Sonic obviously had a few lyrics in them, but very minimalist, and they were built around this kind of swirling resonance, glitchy, high-pitched, resonating 303 sound. It was very raw, minimal, and completely unlike anything mainstream. In fact, you probably wouldn't really hear these things on the radio. Everything was kind of underground, being played in the clubs. What makes it kind of unique? Well, let's just break it down. At its core, the 303 is a monophonic analog synthesizer with a 16-step sequencer. It uses a single oscillator with two waveform options, sawtooth and square. But the magic lies in the filter section. Paired with its resonance envelope, modulation and accent slides, you can craft evolving, almost vocal-sounding bass lines. People would ride these parameters as they're recording them, so a lot of it would be done kind of on the fly. And when producers started tweaking these knobs, the results was a sound that just felt kind of alive and constantly shifting. It wasn't totally repetitive, even though you could argue that the patterns were. There's just the turning of the parameters and the resonance cut off and things like that just made a simple bass line just kind of transform across the whole length of a song, and it kept you really interested sonically. So as the kind of 90s rolled in, the TB303 didn't really fade away. It just kind of mutated. People started using it for different types of music dance genres. So techno, trance, breakbeat and big beat in the UK, and drum and bass. And it just became adapted, and people added effects as well, external effects, just to add that extra kind of squelch and depth, and really kind of make the sound quite big. People like Josh Wink used it. Higher State of Consciousness, another fantastic track. Go and listen to that one. Still stands up today. Aphex Twin, Underworld, Daft Punk, they all use it and carry the spirit of that kind of sound in their songs. So once it got popular in the late 90s, original 303s were pretty rare and expensive and coveted. Even now, if you go onto the internet and try and buy one of these things in immaculate condition, people are asking £3,500, and I'm talking UK here, £3,500 for them. So probably about $4,000 or more. The prices of them is just incredible. Even though you could argue that you can get something pretty close to it with other clones, people with the money want the originals. Yeah, so you can get that sound roughly with plugins, electronic plugins, and various things. But of course, if you've got the original, then you can really stand out, and you've got one of these things, and it probably feels good to have one in your shelf there alongside your other great synths. So in summary, why did this failed bass guitar emulator become one of the most influential electronic instruments of all time? Because musicians found ways to misuse it, and in doing so created something totally new. The 303 wasn't just a synth, it was kind of a symbol, a school of thought, a rebellion, innovation, an underground kind of kick against mainstream guitar bands of its time. It helped form movements that really changed and challenged music. It's a story that's remind us of limitations that can be creative fuel. is a story that's a reminder that limitations can really be creative fuel, and that accidents can lead to great revolutions. So if you've liked what you've heard here, please do click like and subscribe. If you didn't like what you've heard here, please click like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye now.